like to bring the meeting to order. Mr. Angel, would you lead us in the pledge? Opening comments, Superintendent Troxclair.
Thank you, President Morrison. Good evening, everyone. We are excited to announce that we conferred diplomas to 1,971 seniors who successfully completed all of their high school requirements from May 2022 at the Cajun Dome. Our seniors earned over $46 million in scholarships. We are so proud of these students, and we're happy that they were able to rise to the challenge in this challenging year and earn their high school diploma. The Early Childhood Department will continue to host day 2 of their in-person event tomorrow, Thursday, June 3rd, to assist parents with completing an application for their children to attend early childhood learning programs. The event will be held at the Vermilion Conference Center, located at 326 Gautier Road, and will run from 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Parents can also visit enrolllafayette.com to register their child for one of the many high-quality early childhood programs available. Jumpstart Summers began this week with all 337 seats filled. Students have the opportunity to earn a course credit, industry credential, and a summer wage. In addition, students gain valuable real-world work experience throughout the entire process. Our Summer Accelerated Learning Program begins for our high school students tomorrow, June 3rd, followed by our elementary and middle school students. This is the first time that we are offering this program to our elementary students. After this year, we felt it was important to offer all of our students an opportunity for remediation and fill in any learning gaps so that these students can stay on track with their cohorts. In addition to our Summer Accelerated Learning Program, LPSS is pleased to offer optional summer camps for our students to focus on STEM skills. We have had an overwhelming response for our Astro NASA Camp Space Experience and our CSI Mystery Camp. We are currently accepting names for our waiting list. If and when more seats become available, we will communicate that information. In closing, I would like to take a moment to say thank you to everyone retiring from our district at the end of this academic year, and recognize a few of our school administrators that we thank today for their service at our administrative conference. Mr. Jeff Jonette, Mr. David Zielinski, Ms. Denise Swallow, Ms. Kelly Claus, and Mr. David Lejeune. Congratulations to all of you as you begin the next chapter of your lives, and we wish you all the best and thank you for your years of leadership. This concludes my comments. Ms. Morrison.
Thank you, Superintendent Troxclair. Item 1.4, recognition of Ms. Grace Bro. Mr. Mouton.
Good evening to Ms. Troxclair. Thank you, Ms. Morrison, Board President, to the school board, and to everyone who's here. This is one of the perks of my job. This is a fun thing that I get to do tonight, and I'm very excited and honored to be able to do this. Miss Grace Burrow, and normally we don't start with people's age, but I have to. Miss Grace Burrow was born March 30th, 1930. Do the math. That meant this past March, Miss Grace turned 91 years old. Miss Grace Bro retired on June 1st, 2021, yesterday, at the age of 91. She has been a loyal and dedicated employee of the Lafayette Parish school system for 46 years, and she retires with over 56 years of experience. After having her 4 children and working at the Gulf Oil corporate offices for over 10 years, she began with the Lafayette Parish school system at Acadian Middle in 1975 and has been there since, serving the students, parents, and faculty of the Acadian Middle School community. Ms. Bro is the first person you see at Acadian Middle School when you enter the office. She always greets guests, students, and faculty with a smile. She has seen students, their parents, and even their grandparents attend Acadian Middle School, and she has been a constant presence there since 1975. Anyone who knows her will tell you that she loves to have a good time, travel with her sister, and be around people. She is vivacious, fun, cheerful, and dedicated to her calling. Her former principals have said that seeing her in the front office in the morning is a great way to start the day, and that when they grow up, they want to be just like her. Ms. Bro, thank you for all that you have done for the Lafayette Parish school system, for the families, the students, and the Acadian Middle School community. We are proud to recognize your accomplishments. We're proud to recognize your service, and we say to you, thank you and happy retirement.
Job. I love to go to work, and that's what I did. That's what kept the cobwebs out of this. Don't work. Don't be afraid to work. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gracie. Ms. Gracie, I want to be just like you, Ms. Gracie. Look over here, Ms. Gracie.
I did ask Miss Grace what she planned on doing in her retirement, and she let me know that she will be starting water aerobics 3 days a week.
Bye-bye. Thank y'all. Okay, our next item is litigation. I'm going to read all three, and then I'll ask for entertain a motion once all three are read. Oh, I missed point five. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, before litigation, we'll go ahead and cover 1.5. Recognition and presentation of checks to the top 5 fundraiser LPSS schools who participated in the Solar Giving Day celebration and LPSS matching funds.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nicole Abear, and I'm with Community Foundation of Acadiana, and we're really excited to be here tonight. May 6th was our South Louisiana Giving Day, and Acadiana really stepped up this year. We broke every measurable record that we had in place prior, and in addition to goals we had set for ourselves. So this year we raised over $1.85 million. We received over 3,700 donations in benefiting 183 nonprofits, churches, and schools. But the real reason we're here tonight is to highlight our diamond partnership with Love Our Schools. This was a unique partnership, and through this partnership, we were able to get all 46 Lafayette Parish Public Schools registered for Solar Giving Day. They put up the 2 family foundations that sponsored Love Our Schools, the Pew Family Foundation and the William C. Schumacher Family Foundation, put up a $500 match for each public school. And we're ecstatic to say that every single school in Lafayette Parish were able to meet at least some of their match. And we raised over $163,000 for the Lafayette Parish Public Schools. Yeah. And I shouldn't say we, the schools did the work. We just provided the platform. So with that, we would like to recognize the top 5 schools. That, you want anything? Okay. David Thibodeau STEM Magnet Academy raised $29,675 through Solar Giving Day. So if the representatives from David Thibodeau would like to come and do a check presentation real quick. Anybody else that wants to join? Okay, real quick, we'll go through real quick and then we'll do the check presentations. Ernest Scollett raised $23,642. Myrtle Place Elementary raised $19,297. J.W. Falk raised $7,708. And Northside High raised $6,332.
I have a question real quick, if you don't mind. Can you clarify for us, maybe this will be better for Mr. Mouton, we'll make him speak, how our matching funds played into, was that money included in the total you just gave, or does it multiply from what you just
That's right.
said?
It's a really big day for the community, and yeah, I got to thank the hundreds and thousands of donors out there who supported all 46 schools, and yeah, virtually every school maxed out on the match, which can then, if it's eligible for a capital match, be matched again. So in many cases, the contributions were quadrupled. Thanks to the board and thanks to the community.
conversation.
Community Foundation needs to buy more big checks.
They're probably driving.
Everyone, this is Madame Michelle.
How fast can you write a check?
Catherine, where are you from? Belgium. That's right. Don was able to find us a French speaking school years ago.
One, two, three. And 1, 2, 3. All right.
Thank you so
Thanks, Ms. Borbet. That's JW Pop.
We're gonna get
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
One, two, three. And 1, 2, 3. All right. One more.
North Sidewalk.
Miss Williams. She's waiting to bring the check. That's right. Who you come to the table with her rain check?
Oh, yeah.
Last one. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move over to litigation. I'm going to read all three and then entertain a motion once all three are read. Okay, 2.1, discussion and or action concerning pending litigation in the matter of Pat Cooper versus Lafayette Parish School Board, suit number 2014-5941, Division L, 15th Judicial District Court, Parish of Lafayette. 2.2, discussion and or action concerning pending litigation in the matter of Mary Ann Marshall versus Lafayette Parish School Board, ETAL, docket number 20-07006, District 4, Office of Workers' Compensation. And 2.3, discussion and or action concerning prospective litigation. I'll entertain a motion.
Madam President, I move that the board go into executive session to discuss the matter of Pat Cooper versus Lafayette Parish School Board, the matter of Mary Ann Marshall versus the Lafayette Parish School Board, and prospective early litigation from Elizabeth DeZormo.
I have a motion by Mrs. Santani and a second by Mr. Lachele. All in favor? Okay.
Madam
to
President, I
entertain a mo-
move that we return to regular session.
Okay, okay. Mrs. Santani, and then Mr. Lachele. We'll go back into regular session. Okay, item 2.1. Oh, you have to vote? What'd she say? Right. Well, we already voted, that's fine, that's fine. Yeah. Okay. Okay, can move forward.
Madam President, I move that the board accept the advice of counsel in the matter of Mary Ann Marshall versus the Lafayette Parish School Board.
I have a motion by Mrs. Santani and a second by Mr. Lachele. Go ahead and call for the vote. Is there any public comment on item 2.2? Okay, any board comment? So we'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Nine for, none against.
Motion carries.
Madam President, I move that the board accept the advice of the third-party administrator in the prospective litigation made by Elizabeth DeZarmo.
I have a motion by Mr. Centeni and a second by Mr. Lachele. Any comments? I'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Nine for, none against.
Okay. Motion carries. We're going to move on to our information items. Item 3.1 is personnel changes, June 2nd, 2021. And as I understand, there's no changes. So we're going to move on to item 3.2, facilities, monthly facilities update. Mr. Bordelon?
Good evening, members of the board. Kyle Bordlawn, Director of Planning and Facilities. The monthly facilities update report is in your packet. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those at this time.
Yeah, we didn't have any.
Mr. Bordelon, would you, for next month's meeting, be prepared to, or in between that time, and maybe I'll bring an item to the board, I'd like to at least study the Edgar Martin project and any impact on drainage into the neighborhood that it may have had. You know, like there was some flooding in that neighborhood, as there were in many parts of Lafayette. I'd just like to make sure that we've done everything we can possibly do to not run water off where there's not capacity to take it. So just
Well,
talk to the architect, look at the design, and make sure.
I can answer that question. There was a drainage impact study that was done in the plannings of the project. The drainage impact study was submitted to city parish government for review before the project went out for bid. So all that has been taken care of, and there is no impact on the project on the neighborhood.
Okay. Can you send a copy of that to me, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. You had a question? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bordelon. Okay, moving on to item 3.3, bid number 38-21, sales of surplus portable classroom buildings. Mr. Bordelon?
Yes, this is just an information item to let you know that package number 2 for the sale of surplus classroom buildings went out, and we did not receive any bids from anyone to purchase any of the buildings. So we will be putting that out a second time here in the next couple of days to a week. We'll put it out a second time, and we'll also put it out a third time to follow our procedures, purchasing guidelines and procedures.
Okay. Ms. LeBou?
After the third time, what would be the plan from that point on?
We get bids to demolish whatever's left.
Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you.
Item 3.4, list of bids approved to be advertised by the superintendent. Any comments? Okay, next item, 3.5, feasibility of before and after care programs on all elementary school campuses. Mrs. Santani?
Thank you, Ms. Morrison. I was contacted by a teacher a couple of weeks ago who was requesting guidance on how to get appropriate child care for her children. She has taken advantage of our program to have her child enrolled in the elementary school nearest her place of work, but that school does not have before or after care, and given that the high school she works at takes in well before the elementary school takes in, having her child near work does not necessarily do a whole lot of good for her. So I'm asking the superintendent to please present at our next board meeting, do some research and present the feasibility of providing before and after care on all elementary school campuses. I think teachers are not the only parents who need child care and would avail themselves of these services.
Dr. Sachon?
As well, Superintendent, if you wouldn't mind, year-round schooling for Baranco and JW Falk as well.
Any additional comments? I just wanted to say that my granddaughter Mary Grace, they utilize that option, and it's really very helpful to working parents. So I hope we could accommodate all schools. Okay. Next, 3.6, vacancy in the Employee Retirement Insurance Advisory Committee. We have a vacancy, and we'd like to encourage all who are interested. The contact information for who you would like to contact if you are interested It's Miss Nancy Mouse. So there is a vacancy, so we encourage you to participate. Moving down to information item 3.7, administrative guidelines for the architect and engineer selection process for small capital projects and projects of minor complexity and major complexity. Mr. Borderlaw?
So we have put together administrative guidelines based on the discussions we've had at recent meetings, March and one prior to that. These guidelines in turn basically reflect the RFQ document that we've presented a little further in the consent agenda item section of the agenda, and covers small capital projects of minor complexity, and capital projects of major complexity, and provides for direct assignment based on dollar thresholds. That would be projects between $25,001 and $150,000. It covers capital projects of minor complexity, dollar values of $150,001 to $1 million, and re-roofing projects. And it also provides for or covers capital projects of major complexity. So this narrative presents or puts in writing the guidelines that are followed in or included, the procedures, the process that's included in the RFQ that will be an consent action item for further down the agenda.
Questions? Good. Ms. LeBeau?
There were several other documents that were with this originally. Is this the only one that's going to be presented to the board at a later date to vote on, or is there any additional documentation besides this that will be used?
Yes, when we get to the RFQ document,
The general or the Lafayette High?
4.20 in the RFQ template. This document at 4.20, the rubric reflects the information that was covered in the attachments at our March meeting.
Okay, I just want to make sure that two of these went together.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Guidry. Oh, sorry. Dr. Session?
Who all had input in putting this document together? Who all had input in putting this document together?
The process itself was an accumulation of meetings with the engineering and architectural state associations, with input from its membership. We met with both organizations, considered their comments, and then we presented that to the board, and the comments at that meeting and the special board meeting in March, where we had further discussions and took in or considered comments provided by general counsel with regards to RFQs, so that was considered as well. So it was a collaborative effort that included input from each of those processes or meetings, meeting opportunities.
Sure, go ahead.
What we did was we took the board. We took the board's input from a meeting. I believe it was a couple of months ago. We attempted to incorporate all of the board's concerns on evaluation, These guidelines themselves will be just the procedure, or intended to be the procedures internally to select an architect, which will ultimately be awarded by the board. These contracts will be awarded on those projects. For the major projects, those are intended to go through a formal RFQ individually.
Okay.
And then the other projects, the minor small capital and minor complexity, you do have an RFQ later in this board meeting as an action item for board's consideration to select a pool of architects, and that's what that pool will be selected from using those guidelines.
Okay. So when you say the two associations and its members, did any of our current members that currently do work for us, architects or engineers, did they have input in putting the document together?
The contacts or the invites were made by the associations, but in viewing the membership listing, it would have included, they would have been given that opportunity. It looks like a majority, I can't say from memory if 100% of them, but I would say a good majority of them were included in the memberships and should have received invitations directly from those two associations. We did have some of them that actually participated in the Zoom meetings that were held to discuss the RFQ document.
Okay. I have a board member on the side of me that's saying yes, so I'm trying to figure out if this is going to be criteria driven. Current people that are doing work for us had a say-so in the actual drafting of the administrative guidelines?
Well, the say-so was more in the RFQ document itself at 4.20.
Yeah.
And the administrative guidelines are just the internal guidelines that we put together. So we'd have something in writing to document the process. When we get to 4.20, that document there would have incorporated or considered comments made from during meetings with both of the professional associations.
You good, Dr. Sashon? We can make further comments when we get to that item, 4.20. Okay, thank you, Mr. Guidry. Are we going to move to the consent agenda? I'll read each item, board members. If you wish to pull any items, please do so. All other items will be voted on in global. 4.1, discussion and or action concerning a fiscal year 2021 general fund budget revision for summer school.
Pull that, please.
Four point two, discussion and or action concerning fiscal year 2022 general fund budget revision to reflect a position change at the Career Center. 4.3, discussion and or action concerning COVID-19 health and safety standards no longer mandated by the state of Louisiana.
Pull that, please.
4.4, discussion and or action concerning withdrawal of emergency declaration resolution 03-20-1977. 4.5, discussion and or action concerning resolution 06-21-2006, thanking the community. I'll go ahead and pull that.
I'll pull it for you, Ms. Morrison.
Thank you. .6, discussion and or action concerning assignment of architect for the new Carencro Heights Elementary School facility.
Pull that, please.
4.7, discussion and or action concerning assignment of architects for the new Prairie Elementary School facility.
Pull that, please.
4.8, discussion and or action concerning bid award number 21-2125, milk and milk products. 4.9, discussion and or action concerning bid award number 21-2126, bread and bread products. 4.10, discussion and or action concerning bid award 21-2129, paper and janitorial supplies. 4.11, discussion and or action concerning bid award number 21-2130, small kitchen equipment and supplies. 4.12, discussion and or action concerning bid award 21-2128, dry and frozen food products. 4.13, discussion and or action concerning proposed new policy, GBCA, criminal history record information. 4.14, discussion and or action concerning approval of quotes for annual gymnasium floor screen and recoats. 1.15, discussion and or action concerning approval of right of entry documents for safe routes to school sidewalk projects at Austin Elementary, Ernest Gallette Elementary, and Dussault Elementary. 4.16, discussion and or action concerning approval of bid number 2037-21 bids to sell and or demolish portable classroom buildings. 4.17, discussion and or action concerning approval of bids for Karen Crow Meadow exterior waterproofing. 4.18, discussion and or action concerning approval of quotes for Acadiana High track and soccer storage building. 4.19, discussion and or action of an intergovernment agreement with the City of Lafayette Fitness Court on Lafayette Middle School campus and related budget revision to the self-funded construction fund. 4.20, discussion and or action concerning the request for qualification template to be used for the architect and engineer selection process for small capital projects and projects of minor complexity and major complexity. Okay. 4-21, discussion and or action concerning request for qualifications, RFQ, for architects of the new replacement for Lafayette High School.
Pull that, please.
4.22, discussion and or action concerning budget revision to general fund maintenance project. 4.23, discussion and or action concerning self-funded construction fund budget revision, Woodvale classroom addition. 4.
Pull it.
I'm sorry, you want to pull it? Okay. Who said that?
Me.
Okay. Okay, 4.24, discussion and or action concerning approval of intergovernment agreement to purchase surplus portable buildings.
Sorry, Ms. Morrison, I need to pull that one, please.
24. 4.24, just, okay. 4.25, discussion and or action concerning budget to actual reports for May 2021. 4.26, discussion and or action concerning the sales tax collection report for April 2021. 4.27, discussion and or action concerning interim budget revision for special revenue funds. 4.28, discussion on or action concerning the grant fund summary for May 2021. 4.29, discussion and or action concerning a general fund budget revision for liability claims.
Pull that, please.
Okay, 4.30, discussion and or action concerning policy JGB, coordinated school health wellness. 4.31, discussion and or action concerning additional compensation for school bus owner operations. 4.32, discussion and or action concerning a budget revision to the 2021 Capital Improvement Fund purchase of school buses.
Pull that, please.
4.33, discussion and or action concerning the minutes of May 5th and May 19th, 2021. Okay, at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve all items not pulled.
Madam President, I move that we approve all items not pulled.
A motion by Mr. Centani.
Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lachele. Any comments from the public? Any comments from the board?
Ms. Morrison.
Yes, sir.
A couple of different items that I didn't want to pull, but I'd like to make a couple comments on. First off, one of the items that wasn't pulled was withdrawing the emergency declaration from last March 20th, where we granted the superintendent special authority to be able to flexibly react to the COVID-19 pandemic. I wanted to personally thank her and her staff for everything they've done over this last year, all of the extra hours worked, both from home and in the office. This withdrawing this resolution is in no way indicative of any disappointment in your performance. I'm very grateful personally that you were here during this time. This is simply because the resolution stated it would remain in effect until the school board withdrew it. So I thought it was appropriate at this time. I'm glad to see that no one pulled it. I just wanted to make that part clear. The second comment I had was on item number 19, the fitness court at Lafayette Middle School. I want to thank Ms. LeBou and Councilwoman Nanette Cook for all of the hard work they did in arranging funding for that and cutting through various levels of red tape. I'm very excited to see that in my neighborhood, actually. So, and then finally, I had a question for Mr. Bordelon. Oh no, I'm sorry, we pulled number 20, so I'll wait. Thank you.
Ms. LeBou?
I didn't want to pull it as well. I just want to echo my gratefulness to Nanette Cook for going out of her way to find a grant to bring an amazing new fitness cord or fitness item that we can use as part of the school, but it also allows us to open it up to the public so that the public can engage with the item as well outside of school hours. And I really, we wouldn't be here without Love Our Schools showing up, the Pew Foundation and the Schumacher Foundation. We're on the phone calls with as well as the Stellar Foundation, and a couple other community groups came together, Solar Giving Day. So it was really, this has been a joint partnership between LCG and LPSS and some amazing community partners. Would not have happened without Nanette Cook. So she's always looking out for us in so many ways. I just want to say thank you for all she does. And she's actually at some other council business right now. So she said she was sorry she couldn't be here. But anyway, grateful that we're approving that. Thank you.
Okay. I just want to kind of echo Mrs. Centani, Superintendent Troxclair and your team. You guys are amazing, and we're very pleased with all of your decisions, especially considering what we've been through. So thank you so much for your leadership and your decision making, and you guys are awesome. Okay, I'll go ahead and entertain the vote to vote for all items not pulled.
Nine for, none against.
Motion carries. First item pull is item 4.1, discussion and or action concerning the fiscal year 2021 general fund budget revision for summer school. And that was pulled by Dr. Aguilard.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Mr. Guidry and I spoke today about item 4.1, and it's my understanding the intent is that this $1.1 million that we are approving tonight to fully fund the summer school program would automatically bring our general fund out unbalanced. And so his intent is to request ESSER's funding to cover that $1.1 million of additional funding. So with that in mind, I would like the board to consider approving the general fund budget revision in the amount of $1.111 million to fund the expanded summer school program, with a request to that funds to be covered subsequently by ESSER's funding.
Okay, motion Dr. Aguilar and a second by Mr. Centeni. Do we have any public comment? Any board comment? I'll go ahead and call for the vote. Get it yet? Oh, it's not ready. It's not ready yet. Oh, I got you. I got you. I got you.
Nine for, none against.
Motion carries. Next item pulled is item 4.3, discussion and or action concerning COVID-19 health and safety standards no longer mandated by the state of Louisiana.
Madam
Mr.
President,
Centeni.
I move that the board remove all COVID-19 health and safety standards when the standards are no longer required by the state of Louisiana.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Centeni and a second by Mr. Angel. Do we have any public comment? Any board comment? Oh, you have public comment?
Thank you. My name's Ty Manson. My kids go to Edgar Martin, and I just want to thank you and voice my support for that measure.
Any board comment? Ms. LeBeau?
I did just want to mention that I did have some people express that they'd like to make it voluntary to wear masks in, you know, in the coming year if we would like. So I just want to say this motion is to state that they're not mandated, but obviously if somebody feels like they would like to, you know, have some type of protective gear on in the fall, the school board would not, you know, would not force you to remove that. So, but thank you.
Public? Okay, go ahead.
Hey, I want to thank y'all so much. My name is Stephanie Skinner-Tushet, and I want to thank y'all for all you do. And I'm very happy that the mask is coming off children, because there's a German study saying that the masks are abusive to children and they don't work. That virus is so small. And our kids are at an age where they're expressing with their faces and they're communicating. And so we're forcing them not to be able to communicate, lack of oxygen, and they're breathing in their bacteria. I mean, God gave us an open mouth for a reason. So I'm very thankful that the masks are coming off the children. And thank you for what you do.
Thank you. Mrs. Centeni?
So I'd like to just point out, I certainly agree with you. I think perhaps whenever we get our dress code revisions, that would be appropriate to list masks in there as optional. Should anyone want to wear it, make sure that everyone understands that they are allowed to do so. That would be, I think, a good place to do that. But I also wanted to make sure that, because the motion was worded very specifically, because the only thing that we're actually removing today is masks. Even though it says all COVID-19 health and safety standards, it says when the standards are no longer required by the state of Louisiana, because both the Bessie board and the governor still have requirements in place. Certainly there are, I'm looking at our attorney highlighted what is still operational right here. Group sizes are still mandated. Cleaning of surfaces. The governor's proclamation from last week, if I can find the page, still says capacity limits on buses. So there are many items that we're still going to have to operate under for the time being. It's just right now it's masks. And then I think it's I don't know if I have a strong opinion on the mask one way or the other. I certainly wore the mask, and then not when I got vaccinated. I felt a little more comfortable doing it. I think the amount of virus we saw in our schools this year certainly lends me hope that we'll be able to safely reopen with some of the safety precautions not in place, especially now that the vaccine is widely available. I would also encourage anyone and everyone out there who hasn't been vaccinated to get vaccinated, because this is how we're going to get back to normal. So that's really all I have to say. It's just that as these restrictions get loosened by the state authorities, I wanted to make sure that we didn't have to come back and vote each and every time to make sure that we took them off. So thank you.
Okay. Any more board comment? Okay, I'll go ahead and call for the vote.
8 for, 1 against.
Motion carries. Next item pull is discussion and or action concerning Resolution 0621-2006, thanking the community.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion that the board approves Resolution 06-21-2006, thanking the community for higher support during the 2020-2021 school year.
I have a motion by Mrs. Santani and a second by Mr. Angel. Any comments from, oh, I'm sorry, what did I say? A motion by Mr. Lachele and a second by Mr. Angel. Do you have any public comment? Any board comment? I could go ahead and read the resolution. Thanking the community. Whereas the Lafayette Parish School Board appreciates the hard work of all parties involved in local public education, whereas in the 2019-2020 academic school year, the second semester of school was unexpectedly disrupted. Whereas in 2021 academic school year, a number of events caused interruptions and changes to the traditional school calendar and administration of services. Whereas our teachers has risen to the occasion and demonstrated their innovativeness, which allowed them to do great work under trying circumstances. Whereas our staff has kept the school system operational and has remained vigilant in keeping the school system safe. Whereas our students continue to show up ready to learn and adapt to changing environments and learning methods. Whereas our parents have been flexible and understanding through the changes to the school system's operations. Whereas our community has remained attentive and supportive in their assistance and encouragement through the unique circumstances of the past year. Whereas the Lafayette Parish School Board recognizes the effort and commitment from students, parents, teachers, and staff in adapting and giving their best towards new and alternate learning methods. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Lafayette Parish School Board thanks the teachers, staff, students, parents, and community for their perseverance and continued commitment to the public education. Be it further resolved that the Lafayette Parish School Board directs the superintendent to forward a copy of the resolution to each school under jurisdiction of the Lafayette Parish School Board. Okay. Any comments from the board? Ms. Troxclair, would you like to make a comment?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. I just want to say that we appreciate the kind remarks from you all regarding staff and the hard work, but this was definitely a team community effort. Things were different for everyone, from staff to school leaders to teachers to support people and to our families and our students. So it took all of us to come together. We didn't always disagree, but we certainly respected each other's opinions and did what we had to do to keep kids in school. And I'm really proud that this year in Lafayette Parish, we were able to keep our students in front of their teachers on a regular basis, and look forward to this summer where we can really spend some time filling in some gaps. But it took this entire community, and for that we would just like to say thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Superintendent Troxclair. Any other comments? Okay, well, I'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Nine for, none against.
Motion carries. Next item pull is item 4.6, discussion and or action concerning assignment of architect for the new Karen Crowe Heights Elementary School facility.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion that the board approve appointing Barra Architects as the architects for the new Karen Crowe Heights Elementary School.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Angel and a second by Mr. Lachele. Any comments from the public? Okay, you may step up.
Yeah, I'm Mark Stilper. I'm the owner of the MBSB Group Architects. I would like to respectfully urge you guys to use the RFQ process for the two elementary schools. I feel like there's firms being left out. I feel like these are large projects. They're not small projects. I feel like that the RFQ process would open this up to firms using national consultants, their strategies for security, their strategies for education are all helpful, you know, with your situation. So I really urge you to consider the RFQ process. Besides Lafayette High and Southside, these two schools will probably be your two largest expenditures. You know, we did Milton Elementary. That was a $13 million job a couple of years ago. It went through the RFQ process. Again, I urge you to consider that process. Thank you.
Any board comment?
Ms. Morrison.
Yes. Dr. Aguilar.
First of all, I did pull this item, and I certainly was not going to make a motion. I was expecting Mr. Angel to come to the board with a recommendation. We have been absolutely as transparent as possible as a board of education and trying to follow rules and regulations to the T. My recollection is that we have a policy FEAB. It's called Selection of Architects, and it does give the assignment of architects shall be appointed by the school board upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools. It further goes on to say members of the school board shall receive a summary of the investigation and evaluation of the competence of an architectural firm before acting upon a recommendation for appointment. So I guess my question is, did that take place?
Did I recommend? Is that what you're asking?
Did
Dr.
you are you making this recommendation to the board, and have board members been provided with a summary of the reasons for your selection of that architect for consideration?
No.
I would urge the board, because these are there are two projects for consideration for assignment of architects tonight, and I absolutely support the two architects that are being recommended. I want to say that very clearly. This boardroom is more than 50% made up tonight of architects. And to my knowledge, most of them I know personally, and they have done either new construction or wing expansion projects for the Lafayette Parish School Board, and they are all fine professionals. And we have on the agenda tonight, we have a request to issue an RFQ for the Lafayette High project. I would urge the board to use the RFQ process and make sure that the selection is pursuant to the policies approved by the school board. And so I would urge you to consider, we are in no hurry to build these schools. Using the RFQ process would provide all individuals with the necessary expertise and credentials to have an opportunity to present their ability to perform these architectural services for the board. And there is no hurry to assign architects tonight.
Any additional board comment? Ms. LeBeau?
I guess my only comment was, yes, I reviewed our policy today that's in existence, and we have a policy that we're voting on tonight. Neither one of them appears to have been followed. Again, I have no problem with the architects being suggested. I have nothing but good work, good quality work. I have no doubt that they would do good work, but I think there's something to be said for having a process in place. And also, we've put a lot of time into putting a new process in place that we're going to vote on tonight, and not using either one. To me, just at this point, I feel like this, maybe if we want to wait and use the new process we put in place and see if it brings us the best result. And this could be the best result. I'm not saying they're not the best architects for selection. I just feel like, if we put this much time into trying to formulate a process, maybe we should try the process. But again, I'm not opposed to the two companies that have been recommended at all.
Mr. Lachele?
Ms. LeBlue, if I can take you back to the March meeting where we voted, we had gone through an RFQ process for the wings, and we have a list of architects that we approved to do small and large projects. And that was a list that we can pick from, and board members do have the right to appoint, which we have done. And I would encourage that we keep doing, because as the representative of the district that a school is being built in, that should come with some say-so. We voted on a list. It's right here. And my item's coming up next. And I was very greedy. I picked the number one person on the list is what I picked. So we voted on a process and a list until we could get a better process in the future, that this is what we would use for the next year for big projects and small projects. So here's your list. There it is. And I've chosen number one. I will vote yes for Mr. Angel's recommendation because he has chosen someone off of this list. And I will vote yes for mine because I was greedy. And if anybody wants to see this list or go back to the March meeting, we voted to use this list for both big and small projects. And the same architects that are sitting in this room got a whole bunch of work from this list on the small projects and didn't have a problem with it then. So I don't think anybody should have a problem with it now. Because when the work was given off of this on the small projects and a cafeteria and some other things, nobody had a problem. But now people have a problem when we're using the list that we voted to use, that went through an RFQ process. So if anybody wants a copy, you're welcome to it. And you can probably go back and look at the minutes. That's my say on that.
Ms. LeBeau?
I will just say, I thought the motion was to hand out the existing projects that we had in backlog. This is a new project moving forward. That would be my only thought on the difference between what we voted in March and what we voted now. But again, I just would like to say, you want to support it or vote the process. I'm okay either way with whatever everybody decides. I just wanted to lay it out that we do have a process in place and we're voting on a process tonight. So if we wanted to wait till July to do this, we could, but if we don't, that is fine.
Ms. Morrison, you
Mr.
are correct.
Lachele?
But we did it for small projects, and this is our list for the next year. We voted to use this list through the next fiscal year for our projects. That's what we did, both large and small. And the comment was even made when you're talking about the large projects coming up, we're most likely going to be, or only within the next year or so, the 3 schools. Yep.
Yes. Mrs. Santani?
So, as I'm understanding this, the question from Dr. Aguilar was, did the staff recommend an architect? Did they go through a process? And now I'm hearing that the board voted on the list to use for the next year at the March meeting. I'm going to confess ignorance because I was unable to make that meeting. This is why I'm a little in the dark here. The board voted affirmatively. If anybody just nod their head, that's fine. That this list that Mr. Lachelet has is the approved list generated from an objectively scored RFQ process. Yes? No? Okay. So, who scored the RFQ? Staff? Okay. So, sounds to me like staff made a recommended list of architects that the board is now selecting from. Do I have it, the long and short of it here?
It was just the wording of the motion was we're gonna sign all the backlog. In fact, I even brought up the point, I don't want the 3 schools to be considered for this purpose of this motion, but
And
again.
did you make a motion to remove the 3 schools?
I think we did it for projects that that were funded and had not yet been assigned.
Nope.
Was the motion.
It would,
That's okay, it's fine.
it failed.
Oh, there was a motion?
Ms. Mason?
Sorry, Ms. LeBou had made a motion, but it failed
Okay, so.
at the March meeting.
Okay,
To
so-
pull those 3.
So, okay, so the board has already weighed in on the list and whether the 3 schools should be included on that list. Okay, thank you. I appreciate everybody filling me in.
Okay, Dr. Sashaw?
What was the decision of the 3 schools? Were they to be allowed to be direct assigned? Because you have to forgive me. I too was absent from that meeting. Does anybody
I'm sorry,
know?
Mr.
Does anybody-
Dr. Sashaw, I could not hear you. I'm not,
I'm
if you want to
sorry.
remove your mask for just a second or just speak louder.
Let's see. Is that a little better? Okay. The decision to include or not include the 3 schools to be newly built, is that the discussion that's taking place that I'm hearing? And what was the decision on being able to direct assign those or not?
It was allowed.
It was allowed.
It was
Okay.
allowed.
Got you. So Ms. LeBou's motion
Failed.
Failed.
And that motion was to what?
To not include.
To not include. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. I
That
got
one
you.
failed.
Okay. What's
have
the,
it.
what's the current motion? To approve. Okay. So no substitute motion, just discussion. Okay. All right.
Mr. Broussard?
And I think with that motion that was made to approve the list, it was not to exclude. It was not to exclude anyone from applying for the job. So with that list, it was anybody else could have weighed in on it. We did not necessarily have to pick for that list. It was suggested that we do so, but it was not exclusive to that list.
Dr. Sashaw?
Yeah, something's eating at me a little bit. I think you're kind of darned if you do, and you're darned if you don't, because it seems just a tad hypocritical that people are. Well, let me backtrack a step. So I didn't agree with the direct assigning of schools or any projects back then. I found it a little strange. I remember a very strange situation. I'd asked Bob Hammonds to explain to me, well, how do you go about properly raising funds to run for school board? Bob said, you have to be willing to just go out and ask. I said, well, Bob, but what if you vote on something that the other person, if they choose to give you money or don't give you money, like how do you properly balance that? He said, you just have to be willing to list that on your campaign finance reports, and you deal with the after effects of that. So I remember asking someone specifically for a campaign donation. They told me they were all tapped out. I said, okay. And then it was strange to then follow that up with a meeting where I had to decide ethically or not ethically, do I support this person getting a future project? And then we started the process of direct assigning at that point. When we started direct assigning, I remember I was pretty vehemently opposed to it because I just thought it strange. I don't know how you balance the two. I personally can have some ugly ways. So I just found it strange, but we started direct assigning. I was opposed to it, and kind of we started on that track. I'm perfectly fine with it now because it just seems as though it's the way it's going. You've got a right to choose if it's your own district, but then to follow that up with people scoffing at the notion that we're direct assigning, but then them too have already direct assigned projects. That bothers me. Like, you either got to be on one side of the fence or the other. You can't straddle it. You can't direct assign a project to an architect and then scoff at the notion that somebody else is direct assigning it. So even though I was opposed to it on first, everybody, if you started the process, that's Pandora's box. That's what I mentioned initially. So we're already here. So you should have a right to direct assign it. I've spoken with Mr. Santana. He's got a huge project coming up. I said, man, are you going to direct assign it? He looked at me and said, nope. I said, well, you should. I mean, why not? I mean, find someone that gives back to the community. Find someone that cares about the kids. Find someone that donates back. Don't find someone that can legitimately do the work and do a great job, yet chooses to give back to the kids in our community. I mean, what have some of these folks done? They sit in our audience and they keep quiet when they get projects, and when a project is being pulled from them or they think they may be losing out on money, they're quick to get up on the microphone. It's very hypocritical. Or maybe architectural. So, Mr. Angel, I'm gonna support you. You want to direct assign that, you have a right to do it. Anyone who's direct assigned, you've got a right to do it because it's within our authority. It's just what you're willing to deal with, the consequences of it.
Mr. Angel?
I just want to thank you, Dr. Chasson, and remind the rest of us that these people on that list, these architects in this case, engineers as well, but they have gone through the process of being interviewed and evaluated, and there they are. Thank you.
No further discussion. I'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Nine, for, none against.
Motion carries. Next item pulled is item 4.7, discussion and/or action concerning assignment of architect for the new Prairie Elementary School facility.
Madam President, I make a motion that the board approves appointing Poche Pruitt Associates as the architect for the new Prairie Elementary School facility project.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Latolet and a second by Dr. Sashaw. Do we have any public comment? Any board comment? Mr. Latolet?
I'm going to echo some of what I said earlier as to why Poche and Pruitt were appointed. First of all, they're number one on the list. Another one, 20 years ago, 4 schools were built in Lafayette Parish. They built Charles Burke, which is in my district. So 20 years ago, they were within the top 4. They built a wing at Ridge and did a fantastic job. Finished way ahead of schedule, under budget, and probably could have gone a little more under budget if I'd have had a little more input into what was going on back then. So, like I said, I got greedy. We approved the list, and I asked for number 1. So they have built a school in my district. They have built probably one of the last elementary schools built. It was Burke. You had Burke, Gallette, Live Oak, and J. Wallace. Now we've built BO since then. But they did a great job. They did a great job on my wing. I am responsible to the voters of District 5. I answer to them. We have to take care of our tax dollars. I know without a doubt these people are going to do that. And this responsibility falls solely on me because it's in my district. They do a great job. I'll probably never hear anything about it. They do a bad job, I guarantee you I'll hear it. But I don't have a problem with direct assigning when you do it transparent and when you have the information to back up why you did it. And I didn't know these people 12 months ago, 13 months ago. We met at a convention. And that's when I started getting information on my wing that was built and got some background. I did my due diligence. And when I saw the list, which we had seen with the wing additions, I know I made the right choice. And I know I did the right thing because they did go through the RFQ process. Now, moving forward, a year from now, we'll do another one. But today, I'm ready to vote yes.
Okay, any additional board comment? Okay, I'll call for the vote.
Nine for, none against.
Motion carries. Next item pulled is item 4.20, discussion and or action concerning the request for qualification template to be used for the architect and engineer selection process for small capital projects and projects of minor complexity and major complexity. And that was pulled by Dr. Sashaw. Okay, go ahead.
Madam President, I move that the board approves the attached request for qualification template as the document to be used in the architect and engineering selection process for small capital projects and projects of minor complexity and major complexity.
I have a motion by Mr. Santani,
I'll second.
second by Ms. LeBeau. Any public comment? Board comment?
I'd like-
Session.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to repeat my question. The RFQs and the breakdown of everything, project descriptions and funding and participation, who all had a say-so in it? And what I'm trying to figure out is if any specific members of folks that currently do work for us, like there was a point in time where we had a job description up years ago, and the individual who eventually got the job had a say-so in the job description. So what I'm trying to figure out is when you said, I just had a general question then, but now it's kind of manifested itself into, like, I have a very specific and pointed question. That question is, if the two associations had a listing of members, and the members ended up having a say-so in this RFQ, did any current members that currently do work for us or have done work for us or would like to do work for us, did they have a say-so in this RFQ?
The only, with regards to the RFQ, when we presented it in March, at the March meeting, the board action was to create a hybrid RFQ document utilizing 11 points provided by Mr. Hardy, along with the minor complexity rubric. Now, I would ask Mr. Hardy for his comments with regards to the minority complexity rubric. May have been, the information may have been contributed by one of the local architectural firms. So if Mr. Hardy, if you go up to the mic and shed some light on that, I'd appreciate it.
Billy, while he's coming up, when you say might have, did they or didn't they? And which firm?
Well, it would, I'm not sure if the information was used by Mr. Hardy. It didn't go through my office. So that's why I'm asking him to comment so we can make sure that we provide you with an accurate response.
Okay, and who's the firm?
If I remember correctly, Dr. Chasson, we did receive a document from Beasley Moliere that was used as part of, for consideration. It was that firm.
Okay.
And Mr. Chasson, as far as my involvement, I had looked through various RFQs throughout the country to come up with the points of emphasis for selection of evaluating architects. I did not have Mr. Beasley's any of the documents from Mr. Beasley when I created my memo that was submitted to the board back in March.
Okay.
For that March meeting, and what we ultimately did at the direction of the board was we did use the format of the rubric that was provided, but we took the various evaluation criteria and merged them together. Many of them coincided from what I was able to find in what was provided by Mr. Beasley, but they were kind of combined. And actually on this document that you have here is a listing, I believe is their document showing the notes that we had that referenced the memo? At one point it did.
Wait, let me slide in for a second. So you didn't have the document when it was created, but you used their format. Explain that to me.
There was a format that was just used because it was just basically we added categories to it and we used the table. We changed the descriptions.
So you had the document or you didn't have it when you created it? Because I don't understand how you get.
No, I created a memo to the board with the evaluation factors that are generally considered.
Okay.
That memo was provided to the board at the March meeting.
Okay.
That same night, Mr. Beasley did provide, or I was provided a document that Mr. Beasley or his firm had submitted to, I guess, staff at some point. That was the first time I had seen that document. Was at that board meeting that night.
This is what meeting?
The one where the direct assignment was voted upon.
What?
I believe it was March 24th? 23rd.
23rd. So, what is the document given from Beasley Moliere? What is that document? Like it was given to the board. Somebody help me out, and let's not everybody disappear. I need some help.
I thought it was actually attached at one point. Mr. Guidry's looking that up,
Okay.
at a prior meeting.
And I can tell you, at least as far as the RFQ is concerned, that came directly from my office
Okay.
with no input.
So
And the format of the submission came directly from my office as well.
okay, so hold on, Charles. So let me stop for a second. Let's pause. All right. Let's go ahead and take a big pause. I'm not trying to say anybody did anything wrong. I'm just trying to get this figured out. I happen to miss the meeting. That's my fault. So let's everybody pause, cut the tension. I'm trying to get an understanding. We didn't use it. We didn't have the document. We used their format with the categories, but we didn't use the format that came directly from your office. Which one? I need some help in this.
Okay, this
Okay.
rubric here,
Okay.
the format stayed the same as the one we received. The
From-
categories were altered, the descriptions were altered in an effort to put in every evaluation criteria that the board members spoke about
Okay.
during that March meeting and in prior meetings as well.
So what did they provide, Charles? They provided the minor complexity rubric. That's what they provided, Beasley Moliere?
They provided the format of it. The rubric itself was revised in accordance with the board's request. The evaluation criteria was revised.
So if I take their rubric and the one that we currently have, it would be,
I never touched their rubric.
Okay.
We just formatted it the same way. When we were going through staff, when I was speaking with the administration,
Okay.
when we were coming up with that, when we made we went through all the evaluation
Okay.
criteria and put it together into the RFQ. We basically kept just the format. We put the evaluation criteria that the board discussed at that meeting into this format.
okay, so when you say format, Charles, help me here. Format.
1, 2, 3,
Grid.
4, 5, 7 columns,
Okay.
8 columns.
So that's, so
Just
no,
the
no,
format.
no information, no same.
I mean, some
like-
of it overlapped.
Okay.
I mean, there were prior experience that overlapped.
Right, that's to be expected.
There were overlapping criteria from the 11 criteria that I found, and I believe Mr. Beasley's document has 7 or 8. I don't even remember.
Okay. How much of the document would you say is the same?
I really don't know.
You don't know?
I didn't even look back at it from that point on.
So you formulated the current rubric without looking at theirs, but the format is the same. That's it.
The format is the same. I looked at this. It was given to me. They used the format. The staff used the format. We looked at it. We made sure everything that was discussed during the board was addressed in it.
Okay.
And that's how we got to the criteria.
Would you have used this format without ever looking at what they had presented?
I've used
Or-
table formats in the past.
Okay.
It depends on the board. Some of them like rubrics. Certain educational staff tend to love the term rubric, to be honest.
Okay.
I've also used, that was the first time I've ever been, that came to my attention when I started working with school boards. I've also used simply a listing of criteria with percentage points on it before. And there's no table. The table sometimes helps for evaluation purposes, but I won't be evaluating. So that's really a matter of preference.
So what was voted on that night was to use a hybrid. So we decided that night. Who can answer that question for me, staff-wise? I need staff to answer that question for me.
Mr. Guidry?
Who the board voted to use a hybrid model of what was presented to us from one of the architects and what Mr. Hardy would prepare. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
The board directs staff to create a hybrid RFP document utilizing the 11
minor complexity rubric is just the format that you technically had up, the formatted.
I mean, it was formatted similar, we
Okay.
altered the criteria, yes. And again, there is some overlap because the 11 criteria had some overlap with the rubric that was originally presented.
Have any further questions, Dr. Sashaw? No? Okay. Any additional board comments or questions? Mrs. Santani?
I have a quick question about the scoring for SOQ number 5, Mr. Bordelon. This was one of my one of the features that I most wanted to see in any scoring rubric for RFQs. I feel like it's weighted appropriately. It's one of the more heavily weighted items. What I'd like for you to describe is what is the process by which someone is assigned 4 points, 3 points, 2 points, 1 point for past projects with our school system?
Well, to read what it says for 4 points, the quality, quantity, and type of the applicant's work for LPSB is excellent for 4 points, is above average for 3 points, is average for 2 points, and is below average for 1 point. That's going to be, I believe, based on our experience with that design professional, whichever profession they're in.
No, I understand it's going to be based on our experience. I'm asking, what do we? Let's imagine I'm on the scoring committee, which I've been on several scoring committees for RFQs and RFPs over the last 7 years. How am I to know what to award in this situation? Do we have, and recall back when we had a lot of these discussions over the last year that we were talking about closeout documents. We're talking about grading the project while it's still fresh in our mind. Have we put a procedure in place, a process in place to make sure that when architect ABCD comes back 2 years from now to say, hey, you guys got another building program, some more projects on the horizon, I'd like to be considered for them. Do we have a folder somewhere or a document somewhere where we can pull it out and say, here's what they've done on their last 4 projects for us, and here were the comments from either you or Ian or whomever was supervising that for the school system? Do we have a comprehensive grade with some written comments?
We do not have a comprehensive. We are working on that.
Okay.
But,
this is what I wanted to know. Like, I wanted to know what the plan is for that documentation right there.
Okay, and as of right now, the members of the evaluation committee, I would assume would sit down with us and ask us questions about how the experience went on the last projects listed here, and let them make their own evaluation at that point.
Mr. Santani, may I jump in? At that meeting, there was a discussion about specifically having some type of closeout evaluation forms. I advised against that because I believed it could create a standard that if there was a selection for a different reason, you would have constant potential attacks if they happen to have graded well on one project or somebody had done that. So my suggestion was, if there is a poor performance, it's going to be noted in the project documentation, whether it be emails or correspondence. The fact that a project is late, deliverables aren't given on time, within schedule. So I think the documentation in the project itself should be sufficient and can be backed up by their own commentary with some documents from the project. Secondly, as far as that evaluation criteria, there is a request for listing of claims and lawsuits. So that would also go into potential, discussion as far as evaluation.
Okay, and I appreciate that, and I'm sorry if I'm retreading over something that the board already voted on. I apologize for that. I just wanted to make sure, you know, there's a pitfall there on relying on the experience of our employees, because if, you know, the point of having multiple people on a scoring committee is that no one person can put their thumb on the scale of any one particular firm or whatnot, right? One particular person cannot influence the outcome to a great extent. But if we all are going to one person to say, what was your experience with firm ABCD, and then that particular line is rated at, you know, it's got a 3 weight as opposed to 1s and 2s on other ones, then we're concentrating the opinion of one person into a score where that could be a real differentiator between competing firms.
Yeah, and there is no way to completely get rid of
There's
subjectivity.
there's
on
not.
this.
No, I agree. It's impossible to make a completely
Yeah.
objective process, and I'm not trying to. What I want to know is, and let's go through a different example, right? Let's say Mr. Bordelon retires. Who are we going to go to find out the school system's opinion of someone's work?
Good question. I don't know, but what I
No,
would
don't
say-
just gloss over it, because that's a pretty
No,
big
I
hole in
know.
the process right there.
I would say a phone call could probably be made, number one. You do have multiple people that are still involved in these projects. You do have Mr. Brown, right there. You got Mr. Brew now involved. So there are some people here. A phone call would maybe be required in that case. I would suggest that if the job is so bad, that a note to the project file can be made. I just did not recommend some type of formatted closeout form. Just it created more, I thought it created more problems than what was necessary.
Can we take some leftover teacher stickers that say like "Great job"?
If you
Yeah,
really
it doesn't
wanna
just
do
have to, it
that-
doesn't just have to be bad things, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, well, that could
because
be
one of the
done, like-
categories is excellent.
Yeah, and you could take, in my opinion, where you really would have issues or whether deliverables aren't on time. There was a delay in shop drawing responses or, responses for requests for information. The administration of the project wasn't up to par. I know these contracts, these architects are expected to go weekly, which to me is a minimum standard anyway. But they are expected to go weekly. So if they're not doing their job, going weekly, performing their not inspections, but observations, that's an architectural term that the inspection is not one they like to use. Apparently we have a lot of architects in our audience. But there are those are objective criteria, and I think a note can be written at the end of the file. I just didn't want to create a form. I didn't
Why do you
think
hate
it was
forms so much?
I just don't like forms. No, I just didn't think it was necessary.
Okay.
And I thought it created more issue. It could create more issues than it would solve problems, to be honest.
All right, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm going to participate in some RFQ scoring committee work at some point, even if mine doesn't count, right? I'm gonna score some RFQs, and I'm gonna give you my feedback on how that part works.
Okay, yeah, and look, if it doesn't work, it can be changed. Like,
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Who's first? Ms. LeBou?
Are we, it's board comment right now? Okay. 3 years. I noticed that this is going to be good for 3 years. Do we think that's a sufficient time period? I know we had discussed multiple year levels. Okay, so Kyle, you're nodding? Okay, I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Mr. Broussard?
In that conversation we had at that meeting, that the board member with project was at their school could weigh in the final inspection, not to give them a grade of approval or disapproval, but what they thought should have been done or may not have been done. Not to get the final say so, because with our naked eye and in layman terms, we do not grade the way an architect or engineer may, but board members should weigh in on the final project as to the employees' courtesy toward whoever was there, their cleanliness, their employment status, and we should have some final say so as approval or disapproval. And that was in the conversation. I don't know if it's in the RFQ as a completed assignment, but that should be as well.
The RFQ would be for the selection of.
I mean, at the end of the job, as far as the approval or disapproval when the job is completed.
Okay, I guess we'll go ahead and call for the vote. Okay, go ahead.
I just want to thank everybody. I know this was a very long process to come up with these documents, so thank y'all for all the work that you put into it, because I know we had multiple meetings on this, so thank y'all.
Eight for, one against.
Motion carries. Next item pull is item 4.21, discussion and or action concerning request for qualifications RFQ for architect of the new replacement of Lafayette High School.
Madam President, this is a non-standard motion, so I'd appreciate your indulgence. I move that the board approves the RFQ for the replacement of Lafayette High School as presented and discussed during the board meeting.
A motion by Mr. Centeni,
Second.
second by Dr. Aguilar.
And then I'll just give you a quick.
Let me do the public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Public comments? Any public comment? Okay. Mr. Centeni.
Ms. Morrison, thank you. After the RFQ was initially posted yesterday afternoon and within the 24-hour time period where we can't make any changes to the agenda, a couple of details were learned and a couple of details noticed that require changing. First off is the advertisement of the solicitation. The earliest publication date, to my understanding, is June 9th in the Daily Advertiser, which pushes the original statement of qualification due date from June 29th to July 9th. And then the oral interviews of the shortlisted firms back to July 29th. The purpose of this being that once we approve this in the board meeting, staff is not allowed to change it. So we had to make sure that it got taken care of. And then the second material change is an old statement of qualifications form was attached to the document yesterday. The scoring rubric referenced the SOQ numbers of the new form, and so we swapped out the old form for the new form, and those are the only changes that we made.
Great. Any other board member comment? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Huh? I'm not doing it.
9-4, none against.
Motion carries. Next item pull is item 4.23, discussion and/or action concerning self-funded construction fund budget revision, Woodvale classroom additions. And that was pulled by Mr. Lachele. Mrs. Mason?
I'll make the motion. Thank you.
Motion by Ms. Mason,
Second.
second by Mr. Centani. Any comments from the public? Board comment? Mrs.
I need to make the
Oh, I'm
motion.
sorry, go ahead, Nick.
Thank you. I motion that the board approves the budget revision to the self-funded construction account to reflect the transfer of $2,750,000 from the committed school site renovation / construction and land / building budget line item to the new budget line item, Woodvale Classroom Additions 6. Also, that the board approves that approves the combining of this project with the Woodvale Cafeteria expansion project for purposes of the architectural services contract and bidding construction of these projects.
Second.
Do I need to keep reading? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Mason and a second by Mr. Centani. Any public comment? Any board comment? Mr. Lachele?
After seeing the two schools pulled, I thought this would be a great opportunity to pull this one, to use the assignment. The cafeteria was assigned, and the person the cafeteria was assigned to, the wing addition, has also been assigned to. And I wanted to tell Miss Mason, good job. Because I think overall, she's gonna save money, have a more effective project, and it's gonna work smoother and quicker. So this is a prime example of appointing a project by a board member in their district to get what needs to be done, because the cafeteria needed to be done in a hurry because of the fire. So, Ms. Mason, job well done.
Thank you. I appreciate your sentiments.
Mr. Broussard?
I understand the wing addition is to accommodate the fifth grade students who is now gonna be housed at Woodvale. How many fifth grade students are we anticipating if we do a number 2025 to 1? Are we anticipating 150 students remaining at Woodvale to accommodate the 6 wings?
Ms. Elroy, Jennifer Gardner. Yes, sir. We currently have a ratio of 29 to 1. In 5th grade, we have 4 current classes. And then we have the gifted program, which houses 2 5th grade classes. So that's how the 6 classes were compiled.
I'm not against that, but we just spent $5 million on a wing just a few years ago, and we still short of space to. How many students are we anticipating at Woodvale for the coming year after completion? How many are there now?
After completion, it would be about 875, between 850 to 875.
And facilities now won't house that?
No, sir.
I'm sorry. Mrs. Centani?
Mr. Brewster, just to add some detail to that. You know, it only goes to 4th grade now, and maintaining those extra classrooms on the campus, we had a couple of options. We could leave the existing portable buildings in place and put them back into use, but unfortunately, that would really defeat the point of what we've been working towards all these years, to just kind of take the easy route and go back to portable buildings. So the campus could hold it in portable buildings. I think the board has demonstrated over the years that we prefer permanent classroom additions to, when we say this is what a campus is going to hold, let's put classrooms there to hold those students. And it's simply keeping the children who are already at Woodvale there for another year. And this will be the last campus, the last elementary campus that doesn't have 5th grade. So it'd be a tremendous accomplishment for the board.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but to add to what Mr. Lachele said, when we built the two-story addition a couple of years ago, you know, we could have anticipated, and then if we looking to save money and be more economically feasible, could have added that for half the amount of money that we're spending now.
You're absolutely right. I agree.
And the building, the portable building was supposed to be gone by now because we added the two-story, but they're still there and still being utilized.
Unfortunately, the design of the wing did not include additional classroom space. It only included replacement classroom space at the time.
Dr. Sasson?
This item is an addition of money, and I was listening to Mr. Latchley. Who was this direct assigned to already?
I can answer, to Beasley Moliere.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Okay, seeing no further comment, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. Everybody, that's okay.
Nine for, none against.
Motion carries. Next item pull is item 4.24, discussion and/or action concerning approval of intergovernment agreement to purchase surplus portable buildings. And that was pulled by Mrs. Centenni.
Madam President, I move that the board approves the intergovernmental agreement between the Lafayette Parish School Board and the St. Landry Parish School Board to purchase 5 surplus portable buildings and 4 aluminum ramps, replacing all instances of the name Britt Latchley from both documents.
I have a motion by Mr. Centenni, a second by Mr. Angel. Any comments from the public? Comments from board members?
I might perhaps amend my motion replacing Britt Latchley with Mary Morrison.
Okay.
I just realized that part. No, that's fine. Replacing you any way I can.
Any additional board comment?
Will they take more buildings? Could we give them more?
Don't push your luck. I told Mr. Bordelon yesterday when I saw the incorrect name, I said, don't mess this up. Like we finally found somebody.
Okay, I'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Nine for, none against.
Motion carries. Next item pull is 4.29, discussion and/or action concerning a general fund budget revision for liability. And that was pulled by Dr. Aguilar.
Thank you. Same question as earlier. This is a request for transferring a significant amount of money to cover anticipated liability claims. Mr. Guidry, do you have an idea about how that money's going to be covered?
Dr. Aguilar, can you just make the motion?
I just need to know before I
Before you
add
make
to
the
the
motion?
motion. I'd like to approve this. I just want to know how is the $800,000 going to be covered?
It's going to be covered. There's multiple ways it can be covered. As part of the year-end close, when we make our final budget revision. There will be expenditures, actual expenditures that'll be less than budgeted. It could come from that. Or on the revenue side, sales tax collections are about 3 or 4 times more than the amount being asked here, more than budgeted. It could come from that. So if I'm being asked for a specific line item, I would say sales tax revenues would be the offsetting increase. Otherwise, it'll be part of the year-end final budget revision, where it could also, the offset could also come from expenditures where the full budget wasn't needed. One line item that comes to mind in that arena is the substitute line item. It's considerably less than what was budgeted. So specific would be sales tax revenue increase. We could go with that. But there are many other line items that it could come from.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that the board approves a budget revision in the amount of $863,556.67 to the general fund for the payment of liability claims to be resolved through future sales tax collection, actual proceeds, fiscal year end closure proceeds, and possibly substitute line item budgets.
Okay, I have a motion by Dr. Aguilar and a second by Mr. Angel. Do we have any public comments?
We're going to add to the motion that's already in place, with funds to be resolved either through anticipated sales tax increases in the budget, fiscal year end closure procedures, and possibly a substitute line item budgets.
Ms. Angel?
I just want to make sure that this is done correctly. If I'm not mistaken, he said to sales tax increases. We're not increasing sales taxes. I think what he meant was sales tax revenue increases, not sales tax increases.
Yes,
Thank
it's,
you for
I'm okay with
clarifying,
that
Ms.
language.
Angel.
correct.
That's how rumors get started. Huh?
Can we get a repetition of the places where we're saying the money's going to come from? I heard sales tax revenues.
Sales tax revenues, anticipated closeout procedures, Mr. Guidry mentioned, and substitute line item budgets.
Can someone tell me what the substitute line item budgets is?
It's the budget that funds substitutes for teachers
Okay.
and other vacancies that
And
we
how
hire
about the
subs for.
closeout procedures?
At year end, when we're adjusting the final budget to reflect actual, just like we would increase the budget for sales tax revenues to reflect that our actual revenues exceed budget. So the final budget revision would be an increase. Same thing happens on the expenditure side. If we don't utilize the budget, say for substitutes, then we reduce the final budget for substitutes to reflect actual.
And you suggested that the amount budgeted for substitutes this year is significantly more than the amount being requested?
Yes.
Did I hear you say that correctly?
Yes.
And probably not going to need substitute teachers before July 1st, right?
Correct.
Or maybe summer school a little bit. But
Yes. So, I mean, the motion could be one of those line items, or it can be a selection from one of the 3 options that are mentioned.
Thank you, Mr. Guidry.
Ms. LeBeau?
Is the motion up yet?
No, not yet. They're working on it.
Okay. Is it gonna include the word possible, or will it include the word substitute?
So Ms. Neesy, just delete the word possible.
Okay, that's where I got confused. Thank you.
Mrs. Santani?
Mr. Guidry, can you give me a cost center for the substitute line item?
If you give me just a minute to call up a cost center listing.
I assume that's general fund, right?
Correct.
Okay.
It's not up yet. I'm sorry? So, Dr. Aguilar, you want to just look at it just one more time to make sure before we vote? Or
I don't think it should say future sales tax revenues, just say sales tax revenues. Otherwise, it looks fine.
so we're going to remove the word future.
By the way, I did have a conversation with Mr. Guidry this morning about these two line items where the general fund budget was being altered dramatically, and the suggestion to Mr. Guidry, he promised to jot this down on a slip of paper and leave it in his desk somewhere, is that in the future, if we're making significant changes to the general fund, that the documentation come with a fiscal note so that all board members know how this money is going to be accounted for.
So, Mr. Santana, to answer your question, it's not a cost center. It's at every school location. So I can email, I can pull it by object code, which is basically the only way to capture that one line item for every location that we have, and email it to all board members. That would show budget and actual, if you'd like. I don't have access to that at this point, so it's not at one cost center. It's at every location, every school
I
location.
understand what you're saying. So my question would be, if it sounds like we have the money in the substitute line item, these are obviously unforeseen expenses, so we're not gonna have to do this on an annual basis. And we didn't use as much substitute money as we anticipated, certainly as we budgeted for, and Mr. Guidry says there's ample money in that account, then should we just use that and then leave the sales tax revenue alone, the fiscal, it'll make it nice and tidy for sure, because it's a budget transfer, right? Between the you're gonna have to transfer it from a bunch of cost centers, obviously, but it would make it, I think, a lot cleaner.
And Mrs. Santani, I would envision Mr. Guidry would come back to the board with a budget adjustment at the appropriate time.
Well, that's what this is. I mean, it's a budget revision. We can just revise it now.
I'm good with it. If you want to choose one of those, if we choose substitutes, then that's where we'll.
Are you comfortable
adjust.
right now, finding $863,000, taking it from the substitute budgets?
Yes, only because of the timing. If we were doing this prior to when we start the budgeting process for the next year, it would be permanent. This is, since we've already done that, this is only going to impact this year. The numbers will, since we've already adopted the budget, the numbers prior to this budget revision will be those that are in effect, or those that are in place, because we will need the funding next year if operations return to normal. Actual expenditures for that line item typically are close or exceed the budget. So it was just a matter of just operations this year were a little different. So I would be comfortable for this year taking or recognizing the offset in the substitute line item, if y'all choose to go that way.
Then I would be happy to alter my motion to not include sales tax revenues in year-end closeout procedures. That would be in the form of an amended motion. Amended motion?
Unfortunately, it appears Ms. Mason made the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm joking.
My apologies.
I'm joking. We know you made the motion.
Okay, can someone readjust the motion for Ms. Dorothy?
Could you remove the words?
Yeah, we're removing the words through
Sales.
sales
Wait,
tax
one
revenues.
Let's say, oh, wait. One person. Dr. Aguilar?
Delete the words through sales tax revenues and fiscal year closure procedures.
Keep in the word through.
Did you get that, Ms. Dorothy? Is that correct, Dr. Aguilar?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, at this time, I'll ask for public comment.
Julia Reed, President, Lafayette Parish Association of Educators. I know that this needs to be paid for. However, a common concern of teachers in our parish is a lack of substitutes. And it's been especially hard this year where many teachers have had to give up planning periods. And paras have been asked to substitute in classrooms. And there was no subs to take those positions. I think that a better use and a more truer use of the substitute item would be to return that money either to those teachers who do have to substitute and give up their planning period, which means that they either are unprepared for their lessons or are having to plan after school, to those teachers or to the paras who have to substitute, or going forward looking at increasing the pay for substitutes, because I can't say that I would want to come to school and substitute at the rate of pay at which we currently pay substitutes. So, I know that this probably, I think this, if I understand correctly, this is from this year's budget and not next year's. But again, teachers covering for other classes, this money should be going toward a substitute to cover that class. And it makes it really hard on those teachers, and it can create conflict within a faculty. I have seen other districts in other states and where they compensate teachers to substitute in another teacher's classroom on their planning period, say like their hourly rate. So I would just encourage you to look into that, or as a better use of substitute money is actually paying the people who are actually doing the substituting. Thank you.
Mr. Guidry?
Yes, I just for purposes of clarification, as I mentioned, the substitute budget is typically at budget or exceeds budget, and has done so for every year that I've been here, with exception of this year. And it's because of the change and the nature of what we've experienced in the past year. It's not a matter of not having used subs when we should have. It's a matter of the need for it was reduced as a result of the change in operations because of the pandemic. In prior years, when it exceeded it, we didn't look to anyone to remit the money back. We had to find the offsets in other places. So just for clarification purposes, we're not using funds that should have gone to substitutes. It's the fact that funding's available reflects that we had fewer substitutes hired during the year, directly attributable to the pandemic.
Thank you, Mr. Guidry. Any board comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote.
Eight for, none against.
Motion carries. Our last item, item 4.32, that was pulled. It's discussion and or action concerning a budget revision to the 2021 Capital Improvement Fund purchase of school buses. And that was pulled by Mr. Centani.
Madam President, I move that the board approves a budget revision increase to the 2021 Capital Improvements Fund in the amount of $744,000 for the purchase of 8 new school buses, with an offsetting decrease in the committed for next fiscal year expenditures budget line item.
Motion by Mr. Centani, second by Mr. Angel. Any public comments? Any board comments? Mrs. Centanni?
I pulled it specifically, Madam President, to ask, who do we purchase our buses from? How, or what is the procedure? We have procedures for, you know, going to the bathroom. What is our process for making sure we get the best price on a school bus?
Mr. Watson?
Yeah. Oh.
Mr. Watson?
We have rubrics to go to the bathroom, I should say.
Jonathan Watson, Director of Transportation. Mrs. Centanni, we purchase our buses from Ross Buses in Alexandria, Louisiana.
How do we know that's the best price on a bus we could possibly get?
Well, I'll say this, since I've been here and I was here before previously, we've always purchased our buses from them. They're on the state contract, so we've always went with that particular company.
State contract is the correct answer. Thank you,
That
Mr.
is
Watson.
correct, sir.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Any additional board comments? Okay.
I got another question now that I think about it. Are there any other bus companies under state contract?
There are other bus companies, and we can definitely look into that. Though, so yes, to answer your question, yes, there are other bus companies.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. LeBou?
Are these buses replacing buses that are no longer eligible to be insured? Are they over the 20-year mark?
So what it is, Ms. Madison, what I'm sorry, is this Mr. Boo talk?
Yeah,
I'm
Ms.
sorry,
LeBou.
Mr. Boo. So it's actually a combination. We're going to be replacing, we're actually going to be adding 2 sped buses. So 2 sped buses, and also we'll have 3 additional regular ed buses that will be added for the Youngsville, Broussard area. And we actually also have several contract drivers that are retiring. So it's 3. As of now, we have 3 contract drivers retired. And of course, we have to replace. When we have a contract driver that goes out, of course, his bus goes too.
Okay. And if we have additional individuals who are interested in becoming contract drivers, do we have routes for them available as well if they're already existing drivers?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
So this will not in any way impede anybody's ability to become a contract driver with us?
Not at all.
Okay, thank you.
Not at all.
Okay, let's see. Dr. Sasson?
Do you guys happen to have a listing of possible ESSER reimbursements? Because I've noticed now 2 different times or 3 different times where we can get a possible reimbursement, or we can use the money with permission. I was just curious if there's a technical list where we could, like, can we purchase land? Can we build new schools? Can we?
It's more along the lines of guidelines.
Okay, go ahead, Billy, while Mr. Hardy's coming up.
So as long as they meet specific criteria, and the criteria could be categories, different types of categories addressing different needs.
Okay.
For example, it's our plans to request reimbursement for the buses that were tied to the capacity being reduced. In other words, the number of students that we could actually transport as a result of the reduction in the number that we could put on the buses. Some of these buses are attributable to that. So we've already gotten pre-approval. Whenever you have capital items that we're planning on including in a future submission, we have to get pre-approval. We've already done that.
Okay.
So one of the things we'll look at is reimbursements for those buses that were tied to that were necessary in order to transport. We had a smaller student population on those buses. If it was at 75% of capacity, that means we needed more buses to be able to run our routes. So we will be eligible for reimbursement next submission, probably in the fall.
Okay, what's an example of a capital improvement ESSER's reimbursement?
Go ahead.
Well, let me let Billy finish this. Go ahead, Billy.
Capital improvements, buses, of course, being one of them. We looked at single point of entry as being another,
Okay.
where you have a better control over the entrances and exits from buildings in terms of safety protocols. By safety, I mean social distancing, things of that nature.
Okay.
So those were two that came up in conversation.
Okay.
And I can add to that, HVAC improvements or capital improvement that's allowable. In some cases, potentially wing additions could be allowable for spacing concerns. Now, when you get into construction, you have some concerns with Davis-Bacon Act being applicable, which would require prevailing wage. So these ESSER funds, the usage is very, very widespread, and some of the capital improvements especially require LDOE a pre-approval prior to moving forward with it.
Okay.
But it's a widespread availability, applicable.
Mr. Angel?
I call for the question.
Okay, honestly, anybody else have any other comments? Mr. Elroy, you wanted to make a comment on on this one as well? Okay, okay. One more, that's.
Yeah. I just need to ask that we all, Mr. Watson, Mr. Waterlawn, whoever else involved, to try to encourage the parents to use our transportation system. It's getting the cost to get car rider lines and to get it all corrected and stop the traffic jam is beginning to be a real hassle. The community is up in arms about it, and we've got to do all. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just wanting to work together with any and everyone to make sure that we use. We can't. We know used to get buses when there's 5, 6, 10, 12 students riding on a bus. Just leave them parked. So whatever we can do to get the parents to utilize our bus system, it would be a big help on the community.
Yes, sir. So, Mr. Bruce, I'll add to that. So I actually have 2 daughters that actually rode the buses from kindergarten on. I have one going to the 11th grade. So I do encourage parents actually when they get, kindergarten, to put them on the bus at that point, because once you do that, they'll get used to it. Because if you don't, eventually, it makes it even tougher for them to want to ride the bus. So I encourage those students as of kindergarten.
Ms. Mason?
I would just like to say some encouraging words about the bus. We got to ride the bus. My children would say we got to ride the bus for 1 year, and they were so mad when we moved close enough to the school to walk. So they asked if they could still ride the bus. But we were 3 houses away, so I made them walk. So just want to encourage everyone. Yeah, I'll go drop them off here. Thank you.
So, Mr. Watson, you notice a difference this past year, or you've been seeing a reduction in bus riders for a few years? Like
There has been a decrease based on the pandemic. So
basically, that's where it's coming from?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So in years to come, we'll probably see an increase of bus riders.
Yes, ma'am. I would think so.
Okay, thank you. All right. Ms. LeBou,
I'm sorry.
reached
I'm
your
sorry.
limit.
I just have to say that
I'm
I
teasing.
did
Go
speak to a
ahead.
parent this week who was told their gifted child could ride the bus, but their child who I think it was zoned maybe couldn't ride the bus. There was an issue with letting the siblings go on the bus together because one was gifted and one wasn't. And so anyway, I just feel like we really, in order to make it more easy, we also need to examine our policies and make sure that we are working to make sure every child that wants to ride the bus can ride the bus, especially for something like that where there's no extra stops needed or any extra requirements. So let's just let's all work together to try to make transportation as user friendly as possible. Thank you.
Go ahead and call for the vote. Let's do it. Mr. Broussard, you had something? While we're waiting to vote, Mr. Broussard just wanted to comment on something. Mr. Broussard, use your mic.
I need to pull item 4.31 and ask to abstain from voting on that item. Let the record show that I'm abstaining from voting for that because I've got a relative who drive the bus and it's unethical to vote for that.
Okay.
For record purposes, you know, I need to.
So, Ms. Dorothy, you Ms. Dorothy, you have.
You got $1 because of your brother or something like that.
Yeah, that. I know. I don't know what's wrong with y'all tonight. We're awaiting to vote. The vote has not come up yet. Ms. Dorothy? Ms. Dorothy, what are we waiting on? We're waiting on the tally?
8 for, none against.
Motion passes. Meeting adjourned.